In the early 2000s, this like subgenre of raunchy comedy that were like specifically drug based, talking like Dude, Where's My Car? Or Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. This movie here, Pizza Movie, seems like a attempt at least to bring back those types of comedies from the early 2000s that are just funny and ridiculous, and a movie that you could just turn your brain off and sort of sit and watch and laugh and have a good time with.
What the hell are we supposed to use, man? Harsh language?
Hey now.
Ahoy.
Welcome back, Dusty. Marvin is not with us today, but welcome back, folks. This is episode number 170. We hope you guys had a lovely week. We're talking about Pizza Movie today, a new comedy that recently came out on Hulu. It's a Hulu exclusive, straight to Hulu, starring our
movie title.
It's part of the fun. It's part of starring our boy. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Gatton Matarazzo. Sorry if I mispronounced that. That's Dustin, old Dustin from Stranger Things.
Stranger Things, yeah.
And I'll say it's interesting to see the cast of Stranger Things start to like branch out into their own stuff. Obviously, we saw Millie Bobby Brown get a bunch of roles. She's like the bigger star of it. Joe Keery and what's his name? Who plays Mike? I can't remember the actor's name.
Yeah,
the one who was in it.
Know.
But
there was that summer horror movie that
Finn Wolfhard. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, Wolfhard did that horror movie too.
I guess now that I'm looking at it, they've all pretty much been in a lot of stuff except this guy, Gayton. Caleb McLaughlin, I haven't seen him in anything. Lucas. And I haven't really seen Noah Schnapp in anything else. But
yeah, they've been popping up though. You're right.
Yeah. So, yeah, we got that coming up later. So stick around for that. How was your week, Dusty? Did you have a nice week?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Nice.
I did some weed eating yesterday.
Like you ate weed?
Yeah. No, weed whacking.
Oh, weed whacking. I see. Yeah, weed eating.
Yeah.
You're the only person literally I've ever encountered in my life besides my father who uses the phrase weed eating. And I've always used the phrase because of my father. My dad, when I grew up, he was a landscaper. He had like his own business, landscaping, and he's been a lifelong lawn doer. He loves doing his lawn. He's always got like the best lawn in the neighborhood, all that jazz. But he's always said weed eater, but everybody else says weed whacker. So it's a pleasant surprise to hear you use the same verbiage. It threw me for a loop.
Older vernacular.
Yeah. So you did some weed eating, huh?
Yeah.
Nice.
Did a little bit till the batteries ran out, and then I didn't feel like
you have a battery powered one.
Yeah, I've got a Milwaukee Electric. It's pretty nice. I got an 8 and a 12. It does a pretty good job, but
nice.
Yeah, it won't do the whole thing. You either have to start. You need a whole bunch of batteries, and that's where they get you. Batteries are expensive. You need a breakthrough in battery technology, man. I've been telling people about this for decades, man. We're behind on the curve on energy storage.
Well, anytime there's a battery breakthrough, I feel like that person ends up killing themselves.
A scientist that disappears.
Yeah.
It's been a chain of those. If you're a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. That's pretty bizarre.
Yeah.
But the president says they have nothing to do with each other, so I guess I have to trust them. Been watching anything this week or what?
No, I just been watching the regular stuff. We got Darth Maul and Daredevil season finales, I think, to finish for me.
Let me tell you something, Dusty. I mentioned it to you and Marvin in the Discord, but every Stephen King fan needs to watch Widow's Bay. It's that new show on Apple TV. I had sent you guys the trailer for it a couple weeks back.
Yep.
And now it's finally out. They dropped the first 2 episodes. Wow, is it good? I was a little, not skeptical, but like, I didn't know what it was going to be because the trailer is kind of like weird. Basically, it's about this like New England island, little hamlet, I guess you can call it. And Matthew Rhys is in it. He plays the mayor of this little town, and he's trying to modernize it and like make money for the town. and trying to
Right.
bring in like tourism and stuff.
Oh,
And
right.
but there seems to be a dark secret or something hiding on this island that some of the townsfolk are aware of, but he doesn't want to. He's a little bit in denial of. So it's actually a really funny show. I didn't expect it to be funny, but it is very, very funny. And I see here now it's like actually listed as like a comedy, drama, horror, folk horror, whatever. But the writing is very, very funny. It's witty and like made me laugh quite a bit. But more importantly, very sufficiently creepy. The first 2 episodes did a very good job. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. I'm very
So
interested.
it leans into the horror aspect good. Pretty
Oh
good.
yeah, for sure. It's not like it's not like oh, like I'm terrified type of thing, but it is pretty creepy. They did a good job with it. The first episode is a little bit slow going, but once it kicks in, it's like, oh, okay, this is gonna be good. And it's just it's like so Stephen King inspired. Like it could be, if you didn't know any better, you would think it was like something he did. It's like exactly his MO, I guess. Like New England town with like some darkness like lingering that you're not really
Cold
quite
cakes.
sure what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's pretty cool so far. I think everybody should watch that. I've enjoyed it quite a bit.
Cool.
Yeah. It's got to be inspired by some Stephen King stories for sure. So that's probably why it feels that way. But yeah. So I watched that. I had something I wanted to run by you before we start talking about the news and stuff like that. Ed, shout out to Ed.
Shout out.
He got me started down this path of speculation. Very casually and innocently, we were hanging out like a week ago, and he said to me, he's like, I don't think Robert Downey Jr. is playing Dr. Doom. And I was like, huh. I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, yeah, I don't think he's playing him. And the more I've been thinking about it, I'm like, is Robert Downey Jr. actually playing Dr. Doom? Spoilers ahead if you haven't seen Fantastic Four. Be warned. Anyway, the stinger in the end credit scene is Dr. Doom showing up and like coming to like take Franklin Richards. And Ed was like, well, why wouldn't they just show his face if it's Robert Downey Jr.? They're making like this big deal that is Robert Downey Jr. back to play Dr. Doom. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I didn't consider that. That is a good point. And the logic says, well, maybe they didn't want, I mean, he's the highest paid actor in Hollywood at this point. Maybe they didn't want to pay him a boatload of money to just show up for like 5 seconds to do the scene. However, in the past, they would shoot the stingers while they were filming the next thing that the stinger's from. For instance, the Thor's hammer at the end of Captain America in the dirt, they just filmed that while they were shooting Thor, and then they gave it to the crew of Captain America to throw it in as the stinger.
Easter egg to set up the next movie, and then they stopped doing those Easter egg setups, and they just everybody expected in movie credit scenes, and now there's 50 Easter eggs that are unresolved. But yeah,
but my my not wanting to pay Robert Downey Jr. theory doesn't really hold a lot of water, because they could have just filmed the scene during the filming of Doomsday and just dropped it in. And so I've been thinking about it all week. I'm like, wow,
wasn't there an article about that they didn't know what the ending was going to be, and so they couldn't? There was a director that was talking about this in the Marvel universe.
Maybe
I don't. Maybe it was related to the X-Men, but somebody was complaining about like, yeah, we wanted to do something where we could cross over, but we didn't know what the ending was going to be. So
it's possible that it's just sloppily done nowadays, and that's all it is like, oh, we didn't want to get Robert Downey Jr. to just come in and like do a 10-second scene. But do you think it's possible that he's not playing Robert Downey Jr.? And he's not playing Robert Downey Jr. He's not playing Dr. Doom, and they're just using him as like a marketing tool?
I think that Robert Downey Jr. will appear in the movie.
Oh yeah, 100%.
As a version of Dr. Doom.
Oh, okay.
Whether or not he is Doom, I don't know. Maybe it's possible. It's possible. It's multiversal stuff is so I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe he I think who's the guy that's trapped in the TV over there at Ryan Aries'
Colton.
show, Colton. Yeah, shout out to him. He had a theory about how because I think Feige or somebody said that you're going to see something in this movie that's only been done like twice or once or something like that.
Yeah, what could that be?
And they're speculating that like maybe Doom sleepwalked into an alternate version of himself, which is Robert Downey Jr. Or like sleepwalking is what they say, because the Scarlet Witch sleepwalked into an alternate version of herself.
Yes.
To do the whole kid thing.
Oh yeah, and
mom.
he does do chaos magic, Doctor Doom, right?
Yeah. And
well, I don't know if he does chaos magic, but
and there's also theory that Doctor Strange is kind of going to be working with Doctor Doom because he knows what's going on, because he's got the time shit going on. So I mean, they could do literally anything. I don't.
Yeah, that's fair.
The speculation is cool. And circling back to whether or not RDJ is the main Doom, I don't.
I mean, well,
I'll just have
it depends.
To wait and see. I don't know.
Yeah, if he's the main Doom or not, it depends on how long they want to keep Doom as the villain. Because obviously they would have to not make him the main Doom if that's the case.
Correct. And they're resetting, right?
Yeah,
so.
And right now it just feels like a very one-off type of thing. But I just thought it was interesting that he was like, he's like, I don't know if that's him. He's like, because they didn't show him. You think they would show him already? They didn't show him in the trailer. They didn't show him. Like, you would think that they would be more forthcoming with it, but who knows? Maybe it does have something to do plot-wise. I just thought that was interesting. An interesting thought of like, is he actually playing? Because nobody really questioned that. Everybody's just like, yeah, no, he for sure is, because like he's in the marketing. But like, is he? I don't know. We'll see. We will see, but let us know what you think, folks. Are we onto something here? I haven't heard this anywhere else. That's probably bullshit, but it's not like we're not like theorizers or whatever, but that's not what we do here. But just an interesting thought experiment. Let us know what you think. Leave a comment if you agree, disagree, or have your own theories. We're interested in hearing what people are talking about. I haven't read a lot about this movie because I'm not really excited about it. So I'm not super sure what people are like saying or thinking or whatever.
Yep, I avoid that stuff.
Yeah. Well, normally I kind of like, sometimes I like getting in on the hype train, Well, let's get into the news, Dusty. We have some interesting stuff going on this week. Not a whole lot of stuff. It's been a little bit of a light week. Whoops, I just closed out one of the pieces. But folks, Dusty is a former newsman. He used to do video game journalism, and now he does entertainment news for us here and for you at home. What do you got for us this week, Dusty?
So Meryl Streep. I prefaced this one for you before the show. She may have seen a Marvel movie, but she certainly hasn't watched many. And I doubt she's ever read a comic with her recent statements, or even seen a Marvel series.
Right.
She's using the word Marvelized to denigrate superhero movies in general. When you use a word like Marvelized, which is an entire industry of artists and writers and actors, it's not just movies, it's comic books. So it's animated shows, it's series. Like, to say Marvelized, like, you're generalizing and you're putting yourself in a class of pretentious elite whose opinion I don't care about.
Yeah.
Because you're generalizing so much that I'm going to generalize that onto you.
Right.
But this is what she had to say. The Hits Radio Breakfast Show. She's out promoting Devil Waters Prada 2, which apparently everybody loves. But she says, I don't know. I feel like you get a realistic view. I think when we tend to Marvelize the movies now, we get the villains and we get the good guys, and it's so boring. And what's really interesting about life is that some of the heroes are flawed and some of the villains are human and interesting and have their own strengths.
Yeah, because you don't
so
get
that's
that
what I like
comic
about
books.
This film. It's messier. Yeah. And so that's what she had to say. And I just want to segue that into this next piece, which is about Wonder Man, which is, we already know it's not a one-shot series. But did you want to say something first?
Yeah, I will say it's silly that people use that as a pejorative sometimes, but
Yeah.
To me, this doesn't. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt here. It seems like she didn't mean it that way. This isn't like when.
Well, I don't know if she may have seen a movie and thought it was boring, but she hasn't. Like, there's real story there.
Well, yeah,
so,
no. What she said
there's
is
real character. There's real flaws. It doesn't.
Yes.
It's stupid what she said.
What she said is stupid.
Ignorant.
And
I guess.
Sounds like
ignorant.
It sounds like she was just talking and didn't really like. She obviously doesn't know, like, not familiar with comic books or whatever. She's probably seen like 1 or 2 comic book movies and was just like, yeah, these are all right, whatever. And so that's her thought on it. Whereas when Scorsese did it, his was like a straight up like, no, these movies aren't good. They're not real movies type of thing.
Right.
She didn't
Sure.
hers doesn't come off that way. That's all I'm saying. But what's about
Okay.
the Wonder Man thing?
Yeah. Well, it's just because Wonder Man is such a great series about flawed individuals. Yahya Abdul Mateen, he was at the Hollywood Reporter's Frontrunners panel talking about Wonder Man, and this is a pretty good interview. I didn't read all of it, but I read a lot of it. I recommend you guys go read it. It's pretty good. It's like, man, I was over there looking over the fence, waiting for a chance to come to play in the Marvel world. And apparently, after meeting with the show's creators, Cretton and Guest, he had one more person he needed to talk to. He, quote, I said, I still need to talk to Feige to make sure that this actually makes sense for me to do. And my reps did not want me to bug him for a conversation. And I said, no, I need to talk to him. They said, maybe somebody else. And I said, get him on the phone or I'm going to say no. So he finally got his conversation. And he said, I asked him, I only get one Marvel buck to spend. Is this worth my dollar? Because I can wait. And Feige said, no, trust me, it will be worth it. And I'm so glad this is the role I got to spend my dollar on because I'm getting all of the super stuff and I'm getting all of the human stuff at the same time. So, I mean, just circling back around to that opening of Meryl Streep, like, come on, lady, you're better than this. You're a great actress, supremely talented. You've been in amazing movies. I actually want to make one of your movies, the next to make Marvin watch, but don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely one of like the greatest living actors. So it's like when they say something like that, it sucks because it makes you be like, why? And you also can't just dismiss it because they're who they are. It's like, it's not like she's not a nobody. Martin Scorsese's not a nobody, right? You have to You have to listen to what he has to say. And he's right on some level. I know what he meant. It was not wrong. It's just, you don't have to put down the whole of what comic book stories are to make your point that, like, yeah, the studios have gotten, like, you know, drunk on Marvel money, and that's what they wanted to make now. They want to make, like, and you know what I'm saying?
Certainly there's some irony that she's saying this while she's promoting the sequel to a movie that a studio is trying to financialize. So.
Well, no, I don't know if that's her thing. I was just talking specifically about Scorsese. But her, like I said, her comments don't come off to me as like, oh, comic books are shitty. But it does sound shitty on the surface because, I mean, again,
saying they're like Marvel stuff is boring, I guess.
Yeah, no, she's saying,
what I take beef with.
No, yeah, she's saying that, like, oh, it's a comic book, so they don't have as much character depth as we have.
Or flaws,
which is the most stupid thing
ignorant
you could possibly
things she could say.
Yeah, it's we know that's not true. But, like, you know, has Meryl Streep ever read a comic book? Probably not.
No. But okay.
If Kevin Feige came up to her with a fucking fat ass check, would she be in the movie? Absolutely. I'm sure she would.
But I give mad respect to Mateen for saying, no, fuck you, get Feige on the phone.
Well, yeah.
And him saying, like, this is my Marvel dollar. Like, that was like, I can wait. I can do a different character. Is this worth it? And him saying, yeah, because we all realized it was definitely worth it. Let's move over to DCU. We got James Gunn clearing the air on a contentious online debate about Superman canon.
Contention in the DCU?
No. More specifically, the Suicide Squad. In the Suicide Squad, it is stated that Bloodsport shot Superman with a kryptonite bullet and put him in the ICU. Mm-hmm. However, in Gunn's Superman, the opening crawl reveals that Man of Steel just lost his first fight. So this is what the nerds have been debating. How is this his first fight if somebody shot him and put him in the ICU? And Gunn had this to say. A lot of people saying this, but being shot by someone at long distance while you're not looking is not losing a fight. I don't see Abraham Lincoln having lost a fight to John Wilkes Booth. So he's like, guys, just you're being ridiculous. Calm down. Basically, what he's
they're not
saying.
talking about the comic books. I forgot that
They're talking about in the Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad movie. I forgot
yes,
but that's
yes. There's a reference to
like,
shooting Superman with a kryptonite bullet and put him in the ICU.
Yeah.
And so the nerds online are like, that's canon. That's not canon. How's that canon? He's like, dude, he just got shot. He didn't lose a fight. So it doesn't matter that the opening crawl and Superman says this is the first fight he's lost. Like, what?
Also, we don't know, like, I mean, he hasn't made it clear if that movie comes before or after Superman. So
right.
It could very well be after. People have nothing better to do. It's actually funny.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. I gotta tell Ed about that. He'll enjoy that.
Yeah. And we got a Lanterns announcement. We knew it was coming out in August, but August 16th is the date. That's coming out on HBO.
Excited
or
for that
wherever
one.
you get your media materials.
Wherever you get it, but exclusively on HBO.
Yeah.
Speaking of some stuff that's coming out, I am looking forward to Lanterns. That's going to be great. We got an announcement for Welcome to Derry season 2, which you got to get your ass in gear and watch the first season.
Yeah, I'll watch that this summer.
Probably the best show this year, one of. But Andy Muschietti confirmed that they have begun writing Welcome to Derry season 2, and as we all knew, it's going back another 30 years. I really like what he's doing with this show because it's just a really good vehicle to explore more of like the lore from the book, which is obviously hard to do when you only have a 2-hour movie. We're out of that like COVID/writer strike like period where we were getting such huge gaps between shows. In fact, I was just talking about this recently because I was bummed out. Matthew Rhys, the actor who's in Widow's Bay that we were talking about earlier, he was in the HBO remake show of Perry Mason, which I quite enjoyed, and they canceled it after 2 seasons. And I was talking about it, and I was like, I wonder why they canceled that show. It's actually really good. And they just canceled it because of there was like a 2.5-year gap between season 1 and 2 because of COVID and the strikes and stuff. And just, I guess people didn't pick it back up when it came back. So they were like, all right, whatever.
Rip. Yeah.
So
happened to a lot of shows.
Hang on.
Well, speaking of strikes, just
strikes.
real quickly, we don't need to go into it too much. SAG-AFTRA have reached a deal with the studios, so we don't have to worry about any of that for the near term. So you can go on to what you were saying. I just wanted to shout that out real quick. So we won't have any strikes. We got a deal done. So it's official.
So they've made a deal, official deal.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's good. This has been going on for quite a while now, a couple years, right?
Yeah.
Like this.
I mean,
forever,
they negotiate. They negotiate all the time. We just had what's his name, Samwise, up there leading for SAG-AFTRA. He's the new president. And they got a deal done with the studios. You know, last time they didn't get one done, but this time they did. So good.
I wonder
no strikes.
I wonder if now that that is settled, they get involved on this Paramount Warner Brothers purchase. All right. Well, thank you for the news, Dusty. We appreciate it, folks. Leave a comment down below on any of the stuff we talked about. What do you think about any of the things that we discussed? Shoot over a comment. Give us your thoughts, your opinions. So let's get into this week's review. We're talking about Pizza Movie. It's a Hulu original. Now, we've been talking about it for a little bit. I've mentioned it a couple times. The last year or so, there's been a couple of comedies coming out of the woodwork that seem to harken back to a specific time in comedy. And when you think of comedy movies, there's like 2 like really great periods, I would say, in my opinion. Of course, the 80s. There's probably no greater decade for comedies than the 80s. But the 90s was good, but we also had a resurgence in the early 2000s. And
there was some great stuff in the late 70s too, though. I mean,
yeah, for sure. The early 2000s was a very specific time for comedy, and we started to get this like raunchy, sort of like slapstick, nonsensical, drug fueled comedies that were pretty popular for quite a time. And when I say raunchy, I'm thinking of movies like American Pie and like those types of movies. Of course, those movies existed in the past. This wasn't anything new. You know, you had Porky's back in the day or Animal House and stuff like that.
Porky's, Blazing Saddles,
Sure.
all the
Totally. But in the early 2000s, this like subgenre of raunchy comedy that were like specifically drug based became a thing. Talking like Dude, Where's My Car? Or Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, like these types of movies. Van Wilder, like, and I think they worked because there was a very specific time, like in history, the early 2000s, when like obviously drugs were always around, but it was something different than it was in like the 70s, right? When drugs like really started to pop off, or the 60s or 70s, it was about like psychedelics and stuff. Drugs in like the 2000s was just like about like just like kind of chilling and being a fucking idiot. And we got a lot of movies about that, and those kind of disappeared over the years, and those types of comedies transitioned into what we were getting from like Seth Rogen and like that group of people. This movie here, Pizza Movie, seems like a attempt at least to bring back those types of comedies from the early 2000s that are just funny and ridiculous, and a movie that you could just turn your brain off and sort of sit and watch and laugh and have a good time with. And that's that. And that's okay. The movie doesn't have to be
is it an attempt to be one of those movies, or is it an attempt to parody those movies?
That's a good question. I don't really know, but let's get into it. So this is a Pizza Movie. This is two college students. They basically are, they each have their own sort of issues. One of the kids played by, Jack, played by Gatton Matarazzo, the Dustin from Stranger Things. He, is getting bullied by the whole college because he, ruined the football team, as we find out in the beginning. And, his roommate, Sean, Montgomery, played by Sean, Giambrone. Or Giambroni, I don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry, buddy. But he's just sort of like a meek, anxiety-ridden kid, and they're roommates, and like they are together for a night, and one of them's the anxious one's looking for like he just wants a quiet night, and the other one's like, nah, I gotta drink and freak, I gotta turn my brain off, I want to fuck around, and an act of fate, a 10-year-old mint tin of
mint,
some sort of mysterious drug falls out of their ceiling that was stashed there by a previous student years ago. We see like a little thing in the beginning of the movie, and they decide to take the drug, and a lot of wacky shenanigans happen. It's obviously a psychological drug, psychedelic, yeah. And we get it leads to some pretty interesting stuff. What'd you think, Dusty? I remember you had said you were looking forward to this too because of the fact that like it looked like one of those comedies of the early 2000s, like that.
Yeah, it had the potential, but I don't know if they tried too hard
really
to meet some of the stuff. I loved some of this movie, and I was bored with some of this movie just because how ridiculous, I don't know, it was. I don't think it captured the nostalgia that I feel for like those types of movies. Dude, Where's My Car was hilarious. I laughed some during this movie, but I was not hysterical like I was with Harold and Kumar or Dude, Where's My Car. Some of the bits with them getting high were pretty good. The can't swear was pretty hilarious. Can't use bad words or whatever.
That was funny.
I mean, I don't know. I wanted to love this movie, but in the end, it was just okay for me.
Interesting.
Didn't love it.
That's interesting. I think we had a totally different experience with this.
Mm-hmm.
I really love this movie. Like,
Wow.
way more than I expected to. Now, I don't know if it's because I have like an affinity for these types of comedies. I've talked about it before. There was one not too long ago that I had watched that I had told you guys I like thought was really good. It was I will never remember the name of it. It was some low budget movie where they go hiking. Was the name of it? I watched it like completely by accident. Shit.
They go hiking and they get lost on psychedelics.
No.
Mm.
Hang on, I'll find it. There's like a cult in it. Oh yeah, this was it.
Oh.
Please don't destroy the treasures of Foggy Mountain. I had watched this. I told you guys I watched this like a couple months back, and it's a similar type of movie. I bet you like 8 people have watched this movie, but hilarious. Okay, so again, that's just that. All that to say is like I do have an affinity for these types of movies. Some of my favorite movies are of this genre from back in the day, and you could sit here and like name drop a lot of movies that kind of fit this mold, but this one fits very firmly into that, like, Dude, Where's My Car?
Adventure
Harold
movies.
and Kumar Lane.
Yeah.
This is more Harold and Kumar than anything. Harold and Kumar, they smoke weed and want to go to White Castle and all this crazy stuff happens.
Well, this one take
drugs.
Spoiler alert, they eat the drugs. They have to eat the pizza, or they're gonna get So asked by a chainsaw.
yeah. So during the movie, we find out that these kids they look up the drug that they took, and they find a video from the creator of the drug explaining like there's different stages of the drug, and to prevent the last stage, which is the worst stage, you have to eat pizza because the ingredients in pizza sort of neutralizes like the most extreme effects of this psychedelic, which is an interesting premise. But again, like who cares about the rules or the premise or any of that stuff? You're not watching the movie for that. You're watching it because of the funny shenanigans that take place. It's not meant to be believable at all. It's not meant to be, although, I mean, maybe a little bit. I've never done a psychedelic, but I'm sure like when you're on a psychedelic, there's some crazy shit that's going on in your head where it might feel like this at times.
I've never blacked out and woken up in a shower or holding a friend.
That's fair. And for me, like, I thought the movie was very, very funny. I thought it started out, I was a little bit worried when it started out. That whole beginning that introduces you to the 2 characters, I was like, this isn't really that funny. And it did feel like it was a little bit forced. Once
the character stereotypes, I mean, you're going to get that in these types of movies, but some of them were just like, ooh, what is this guy even about? Like, I don't.
Well, that's what's funny about it.
So we're farting on his head.
Yeah, so the movie like plays off of that. Like that wasn't like obviously not a real written character. Like that's a joke, right? Like it's not meant to be taken seriously. There's no other way for me to explain it. It's either you like it or you don't. Like I can't even sit here and be like, no, like you just missed the point of what that character. No,
yeah,
it's either you find it funny or you don't.
Right.
And I didn't find everything in this movie funny. I saw some reviews, people talking like, oh, this movie felt like it was trying to force jokes and things. I didn't feel that at all. I actually laughed like a lot in this movie. I thought the writing was pretty snappy at a lot, especially the dialogue.
The dialogue was decent, I guess, because it was the witty rapport between some of them, but sometimes the dialogue wasn't that great.
I mean, what were the things that you didn't like about it the most?
I mean, just the exposition of the assholes just announcing shit. It was like,
RAs?
Yeah.
So outside of the drug fueled,
or not just the RAs, but the assholes that what's her name was like she left them to be friends with. Yeah, the jocks. It was, I don't know.
Outside of the drug fueled shenanigans, we'll call it, there is this whole little like subplot of the RAs that work for this college. The what are they called? What do RA stand for? Resident something or other.
I don't know. You just made me mind blank on it. But yeah,
Resident administrator or something like that. Yeah, resident assistant. It's basically like they're like student faculty almost. Like they make sure like
teachers' aides, basically. Yes.
No, they just make sure the dorms are like not
Yes.
around or whatever. And so they frame this group of RAs like Nazi Gestapo, but specifically from Inglorious Bastards. So much so that they recreate that scene where what's his name?
Yeah, that was yes
from Inglorious Bastards. What is the character's name? Damn it, my memory's shot today. The Christoph Waltz character, Hans Landa, that's his name, where he is in the house and the people are hiding in the floor, and like he just slowly breaks the guy down with just conversation. He's like, "You are hiding people, are you not?" Like they do that scene. It was so funny to me.
Yeah, no, that was good
because the dude's just sitting there like terrified, but also high out of his mind.
There's a bong in the fridge, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I thought the writing was pretty smart and funny. Like when I say smart, I don't mean like smart like, oh wow, this is like some next level deep comedy. I'm just talking like smart in that it's like witty banter between people. And that's what I always appreciate.
There was some really clever writing, but I just think some of the clever writing was washed away by some of the ridiculous. I thought it was too over the top for this. For the type of movie, I guess I'm used to, like those old 90s and 2000s get high adventure road trip type movies aren't as absurd. Even if you go back to the Tom Green movies.
Sure they are. Dude, Where's My Car is one of the most absurd movies ever.
I don't. It's not as absurd as this. I think this.
You don't think so? Really? Wow.
No,
I think so. That's crazy. There was
like the butterfly exchange was hilarious to me.
So
like
funny.
when he's like, I need succulent. What was he saying? I can't even remember what he was saying.
I don't even remember either.
It wasn't pollen. It wasn't
nectar.
Glucose or nectar. Yeah.
Sweet nectar.
Need nectar.
Yeah. No, I thought that was that's what I'm saying. Like it was
fucking hilarious. Yeah. No, there was some hilarious stuff, but then some stuff I don't know, the exploding head thing.
This genre,
cool, I guess.
No, this genre has a very fine line, right? And
not all the shticks got to me, I guess, is what I'm saying. Some of them got to me and I thought were hilarious. Some of the writing was clever, but not all of them. I was just like, man, that's okay.
I think that's fair. I don't agree with you at all about Dude, Where's My Car? I think that's one of the most ridiculous movies like of all time. And there's a very fine line in this genre of comedy where you have on one end of the spectrum, you have Dude, Where's My Car? And where this movie fits, I think, Pizza Movie, which is like the ridiculous, like completely non-believable, never happening, reality breaking type of comedy that's just funny to be funny. And then you have the opposite end of the spectrum with like Pineapple Express, I would say.
Sure.
Also, like not believable, will probably never happen, but more in the realm of reality. Right.
Yeah.
And so, and then you have like varying degrees of that. Like I would say a lot of the Jay and Silent Bob movies probably fit into this spectrum somewhere, like in the middle a little bit.
Yeah.
Different. But this movie definitely firmly sits on the end of the spectrum where it is ridiculous, not within the realm of reality. And I think that's good from time to time. That and I think it did it really well. Like and I think it did it so well that a lot of the time I was watching this, it didn't feel like a movie that was made in 2026. It felt like a movie that was literally made in the 2000s, like the early 2000s. Aside from some of the technology that pops up in this movie, like obviously the food delivery thing, the cell phones, the smartphones, and the Face ID and all that stuff, there are some like 2026 or now specific things that this movie uses, but otherwise it felt like it was made in the early 2000s. Like so much so that like I got this movie like gave me like a wave of nostalgia a little bit, because you don't see movies like this anymore. You don't see movies that take place in college dorms anymore. You don't.
Yeah, no, it was a nice ode, certainly, and they don't do it.
There used to be a time where like almost every comedy was like a teen comedy. Took place in a high school or a college or whatever. And like I never went to college, and I certainly didn't dorm, right? So watching movies like this back in the day almost like gave me an experience that I never had of like what it's like to like live in a dorm and like and like do those things. And this movie made me like feel like that again. It was pretty interesting, right? It just had that like old school feel, the Van Wilder feel. And yeah, no, I actually really appreciate it. And I did find the movie genuinely funny. Like aside from like the nostalgia stuff, I laughed a lot in this movie. And at the dumb stuff, at like some of the more witty stuff, like I just thought it was funny, and I thought it worked a lot of the time. One of my favorite, the guy who's in this movie, he's the big guy who was who was the RA. This guy Caleb Heron, he's I think he's a podcaster, and he's like a stand-up comedian.
First time.
He's trying to fit in with the RAs. He was so funny.
Yeah.
And that scene where they're sitting there high as shit and they can't lie, and they're telling him the deepest, darkest secrets. He's like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Like it was like I thought a lot of it was very funny. I thought the delivery was funny.
Yeah.
I thought the writing was funny. And when he gets screamed at by the by the Nazi guy, like it was just funny, And that's the thing about this movie. I think that's my ultimate takeaway is that like it's okay to like a movie that's not good or a movie that's silly and stupid and
Sure.
And it's ironic too because last night recently I was editing the our conversation about War Machine.
Mm-hmm.
And we both were kind of shitting on that movie. I was a little bit more ruthless than you were. You gave it a little bit of grace. You were like, yeah, there's something there, but
Right.
And I had said in that I was like, listen, I'm not trying to be a pretentious asshole. Like, I love movies that are bad all the time. It's okay to like bad movies. And this is just one of those times. Like, I'm not sitting here saying this is a great movie. I'm not sitting here saying this is like, an award winner. It's not I probably will never rewatch it. And I think that's where I do agree with you. So, what are some of the things that you like the most about it, though?
Well, I like some of the. Okay, so the premise behind we found a drug. Oh, this drug is crazy. Oh, there's several phases to this drug unless we eat the pizza, and we just can't get the pizza. And the whole robot trying to deliver the pizza and just get the 5 stars. There's some good irony behind all that.
Dude, that was so funny. That robot
ripped on star ratings for a long time.
Yeah, you have.
But like I said, I thought some of the effects of the drug were brilliant, and then some of the effects I didn't find them as funny. So some of those bits I just kind of felt a little bit bored with, I guess, because you kind of felt how you knew when the movie was going to progress. They're going to go through all these phases, and it's going to be funny, and then but there's clever writing. There's clever, like, giving the dude all the drugs so that he's like, wait a minute, I'm in a movie? My character is even that well drawn out, like, brilliant.
You see the horrific nature of reality.
Yeah. That was brilliant writing, but I don't know.
What was the genre of music that metal band played? It was like circus something. I don't even know.
Yeah.
And she's playing, her instrument was
the
like
human. Yeah.
It was torturing a human and his extracted screams. Like, I think, I don't know how you could watch this movie and not laugh. Like, there were a lot of people that were like, this movie was trying too hard. It's like, what do you grow up?
It feels like it is at times, but
that's
again, there's some brilliance in it. But yeah, but if you're trying to force the joke, it can miss. If it feels like you're trying to force the joke, it can miss. I can see why people would feel that about certain parts of this movie, because I did feel that. Not all of it. And some people think this whole movie hits, Dan. So some people might think this is a 10 out of 10, and you're wrong about thinking
Well.
it's not rewatchable.
Well, that I never felt. I never felt the jokes were forced.
Okay.
In a way that seems like hacky, right? Where it's like, ugh,
Right.
that was trying to be funny and it wasn't. I do think some of the things didn't really land as hard. And where I do agree with you is that this lacks something of, this lacks whatever trait those older movies similar to this had that made them iconic. This doesn't have those things. I don't know that I could quite put my finger on what those are, but I probably won't ever rewatch this movie. Not because I didn't enjoy it, not because it's not funny. I did find it funny. It just doesn't have those iconic moments that you will remember forever. That's why you rewatch movies like this. I've seen
Right.
Van Wilder dozens of times in my life
Why?
because it's such a funny movie, and I think it's funny. It's got a lot of one-liners. It's got a lot of like
Write
quips
that
and
down.
stuff that I'll remember. Write that down. I still say that in my real life.
I do too, man. I
Write
do
that down.
too.
Like, write that down. And it's why I like Ryan Reynolds, to be honest. That's the movie that introduced me to him. A lot of people don't like Ryan Reynolds. They think his shtick is like fucking annoying. I think he's hilarious.
Van Wilder's, it makes him the GOAT. Yeah.
Dude, Where's My Car? Again, another movie. You remember moments from that. The Jay and Silent Bob movies. Harold and Kumar.
And then.
Harold and Kumar made
Snoop, we're going streaking.
Well, that's old school, yeah.
Yeah.
Harold and Kumar made what's his name an icon. The fuck is Doogie Howser? What the fuck is his name?
He was
again?
already an icon.
He
you said him
was.
by his iconic name.
I know
because
he was, but this movie,
it brought him back.
It
to
brought
the
it brought him
forefront
back
of
into
pop
the
culture,
into the
yes.
forefront, and then he was in How I Met Your Mother.
Yes.
And so, like, what the fuck is his name? How am I not remembering his name? God Almighty, my brain, dude.
Ryan? No.
Neil Patrick Harris.
Neil, yeah.
And so, like, this movie did lack some of those more iconic moments. Maybe it's because I'm not familiar with some of the actors. A lot of these actors I haven't really seen ever before, with the exception of the main guy from Stranger Things. And I knew about the comedian who played the dude in the Grinch suit and the baby diaper. Hilarious. But that would be my one real negative thing to say about this movie. And it's not the movie's fault. It's just, it is what it is. Like, not every movie's going to be an iconic movie. You know what I mean?
It could be a chemistry thing because
Maybe.
I don't know.
I thought their chemistry was pretty good.
Well, between the groups and sometimes intergroup, there was good chemistry. But when you have like a psychedelic, like Fear and Loathing is a great example of like being off your mind and still trying to react in the real world and going to and fro.
Yeah.
Where this one, like the main protagonists were experiencing something that nobody really else was seeing or experiencing.
Right.
So there was a disconnect between what everybody else is seeing and what they're seeing. And that, maybe causes a bit of...
I honestly thought that was really well done too. That was probably the smartest thing this movie did, which I really enjoyed, where throughout the movie, they are on psychedelics, like you just said, and you're experiencing things as they're experiencing them. And the line between reality and what they're experiencing is blurred in a very silly sense. Right. There's nothing deep to it. It's just like, you don't really know what's going on, what's a hallucination or what's blurred reality. And at the end of the movie, they remove the veil between what they're seeing and what everybody else around them is seeing. And then we, the audience, actually experience them the way other people are experiencing them. And we see the reality of what they're doing. I'm specifically talking about that fight scene at the end where they become the random Colombian guy.
Mm-hmm.
And you see like the reality of what they're doing versus what they think they're doing. And I thought that was really smartly done, that the movie waited until the end to like reveal that, which was pretty cool to me.
Yeah, I don't know. It felt like it disconnected to you throughout most of the movie until the reveal, I guess.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's why I liked it. I thought it was cool. It was like, it was like, we're experiencing their stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just a little distracting early on not having it.
not seeing like what was actually going on.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, totally not going to be a movie for everybody, but I was pleasantly surprised by it. I enjoyed it. I didn't obviously expect much, but I was hoping it was going to do the thing that it did. Maybe that's a little bit why maybe I came into it with some like pre-existing hopium. But I think it did its job as that. And I think you're right too. I think there is definitely a little bit of like parody in there. Obviously, these movies have to have some sort of parody. Like you mentioned, like some of the other like other characters being like flat, like the jocks or the bullies or whatever. Like, yeah, they're nobody characters. He's like, yeah, I remember that time. Every time he's on screen, he's like, and then I farted in his face when I said I was going to. Like, that's the joke though. Like that's like a typical
it
like
felt more like Scary Movie than Scream to me at times.
Yeah, that's what it was. I mean, that's what it was trying to do, I think. And so in that regard, I thought it was successful. But yeah, this is just a just nonsensical doesn't make sense at times comedy, and I do miss those. Yeah. I think there's a gap to be filled for these types of movies.
Mm-hmm.
What were you gonna say?
This is these pair of comedians, Saturday Night Live writers.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like when I watch a movie, I'm like, the guys were on psychedelics when they wrote this, and it's more intended for you to be on psychedelics while you watch it.
You would probably have a way better time watching this if you were like high as shit on like, you know, even just smoking weed.
Or a completely terrible time if you're having a bad trip. Maybe. Shut up.
Yeah, shout out to those of you having bad trips
while watching this movie. But yeah, I don't know. So I was like, I was like, man, I should really. This would probably hit different. I'd probably be laughing more. Like it felt like one of those intended to be on while you're watching it.
Yeah, maybe. But I wasn't on anything except for leftover Taco Bell, and I still enjoyed it. And yeah, I probably won't ever watch it again, but that's okay. And I think that there is for many years now, there's been a severe lack of movies like this. You know, going back to what we talked about with Meryl Streep, like part of what she's saying, I do understand. Like there has been this over the course of the last 10, probably 15 years of like the industry being geared towards like a very specific thing. We don't get a lot of variety in movies anymore. And there is a comedy movies, I think specifically, were hit hard by this. We don't get a lot of comedies anymore, really. Like, and we don't, and when we do get comedies, they're not like this. Even like, you know, in like the 2010s, like 2010 to like 2015, we had a lot of like Seth Rogen-esque comedies, and like those were great, but they weren't like this. So, you know, I see movies like this and the one I mentioned about the mountain thing, hiking or whatever the fuck. Ricky Stenicki that I told you about like a year or two ago, that was really funny. Like those old Farrelly Brothers movies. Like there's just I think a void that needs to be filled. And I would like to see more movies like this. Yeah, this had like some Superbad vibes, but Superbad was more like in the realm of reality than I think this one was. But yeah, I would love to see this subgenre of movie make a comeback. I think I miss them personally, and I think we just need more variety, you know? Variety is the spice of life, as they say. But is there anything else you wanted to mention about this?
No, I basically said, like I said, you felt like they were high when they wrote it, and we should be high when we watch it. But it was a good movie. If you want to laugh some, you probably will watching this movie, so it's worth a watch. It's not, like I said, we agree, it's really not rewatchable. It's
I think
maybe
this is
forgettable a little bit until it becomes a cult classic for whatever reason.
It's totally forgettable.
We'll talk about
I will say that this is a one and done movie. It will, like, again, it doesn't have that like legacy factor that some of those other movies that we've mentioned have, and that's okay. Maybe if this movie hit theaters, it would have been different. That's also another thing that needs to be considered. Those movies were released at a time when like they got to the theaters and movies could spread with word of mouth. There might be other movies like this that exist that we just don't hear of because they get buried on some whatever platform that they're on.
Because for the last 6 years, we've had a lot of digital releases.
Yeah, this just went straight to Hulu. Who the fuck's, if you don't, I mean, I don't even know anybody who has Hulu. Like, Hulu's not one of the more, I mean, maybe it is, I don't know. But yeah. So I
Disney, right?
definitely, oh yeah, Hulu and Disney are together now. I enjoyed this more than I thought it would. I actually, yeah, I would recommend it. I think this is a love it or hate it kind of movie though. So if you do watch it, don't think you're going to like, oh man, this is going to blow me away. You probably won't, but
even if you hate it, you're probably going to laugh a couple of times because
Yeah.
there's some,
there's like objectively funny shit going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it has a pretty lukewarm rating, which you would expect for something like this. On IMDb, it has a 5.9.
Yeah.
For me personally, I'm going to bump this up. This is a very personal to me rating. Just keep that in mind. I would give this an 8. I found it. I laughed a lot during this movie. Like I was laughing more than I wasn't laughing, and so for that, that's an 8 for me.
No, I'm gonna leave it right where it's at. I think 6 is good because I'm gonna forget about it. I'll probably forget what score I gave it to.
No, that's a fair rating. I think 6 is perfectly fair for this. Like I said, I was tickled by this movie. I laughed a lot, so I have to bump it up. But yeah,
I wanted to laugh a lot more. I was disappointed that I didn't laugh a lot more. I guess that's probably why.
Watch it again and smoke weed first.
Yeah, well, I stay high.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Maybe watch it sober.
Yeah, there we go. We'll try that.
But there you have it, folks. There's our thoughts on Pizza Movie. If you haven't watched it, check it out. Tell us what you think if you have watched it. We love to hear your opinions. Leave your comments down below. Last week was Marvin's first time watching They Live, the John Carpenter classic. I don't know how he hasn't seen it, but he finally did. So if you want to check out his thoughts on that movie and others that we've made him watch for the first time, there will be a playlist that will pop up right there that you could click on and check that out. But otherwise, we appreciate you. We'll catch you next week.
Asta.